Welcome to Reduce Your Stress with Tim Ringgold. I'm a board-certified music therapist, author, and expert on how to use music to relieve stress fast. This podcast is sponsored by McConnell Music Therapy Services, Inc., where they believe in the power of music to transform people and communities. Based in Northern California, their board-certified music therapists support people of all ages and abilities within hospitals, schools, corporations, and communities using music experience to connect, express, and de-stress. Visit them at mcconnellmts.com or their Facebook page, McConnell Music Therapy. This episode of Reduce Your Stress with Tim Ringgold is also sponsored by Dr. Nisi, trainer and certifier of master and executive coaches, because she believes every person, every relationship, every business, and your finances should be extraordinary. Find out more about Dr. Nisi Moore and the Life Coaching Institute at www.drnisi.com. That's DRNEECIE.com. Hello and welcome to another episode of Reduce Your Stress with Tim Ringgold. It's so great to be with you and I'm so glad you're here. This week, I'm going to help you reduce your stress in a very specific place. The 6 inches between your ears. Yeah, I know our external environment and our external relationships can definitely be sources of stress, but so can the internal relationship with our thoughts. We don't even have to get out of bed to get ourselves stressed. That's why this presentation from January's Stress Elimination Summit is so important. You're going to hear from my friend Kate B. on how to challenge and master that inner dialogue we all have. I'll share Kate's bio in the introduction from the summit, but I want you to know that Kate has an amazing online coaching program that helps women to quit drinking or take a break from alcohol. If that's something that you or someone you know and love is currently struggling with, and a lot of people are coming out of the pandemic. It's a 6-week long class that runs a few times each year, and the next one's coming up soon in July. So head over to www.thesoberschool.com and you can find all the details there. I'll also put the link to the course in the show notes. Kate is world class, and as you'll see in a moment, a joy to listen and learn from. So sit back, relax, and I'll see you on the other side. Kate B. is the founder of The Sober School, where she coaches women through early sobriety and shows them how to navigate alcohol-free living without feeling deprived or miserable. Kate works with women who are looking to support to quit outside of 12-step programs. Kate's course helps women understand why they really drink so they can change their relationship with alcohol for good. Kate lives near Manchester in the UK. Her talk today is called Believing New Things, Shifting Your Mindset for Stress-Free Sobriety. Kate, welcome to the Stress Elimination Summit. It's so great to have you.
Oh, thank you for inviting me. I've loved listening to everything so far.
Awesome. Before we get started, the crowd wants to know, what was your first concert?
Well, embarrassingly, my first concert was Boyzone, which you might not know. Yeah,
No.
You don't know who that is because, Tim, you weren't a teenage girl in the 90s growing up in England. They were a very cheesy boy band, and I loved them. I was in love with them, and that first concert set the tone for the rest of the 90s, really. My terrible taste in music.
Was that one of those where there was a high-pitched squeal in the arena the whole time, just the right?
Yeah, I remember my dad very patiently driving this car full of excited girls over to the arena and waiting outside. Yeah, it was
He
one
did
of
not
those.
have the courage to go in. He's like, I'll be out here. I'm good. Girls have a good time.
Exactly.
That is outstanding. And did you have posters in the room?
Oh, the works, posters, the t-shirts, used to have little stickers everywhere. One of these days, Seriously, if I met a member of the band now, I'd be just as excited.
Fangirl moment.
Yeah.
Totally. Well, just so you know, ain't no shame in it, because several people have said the same thing. They're like, I'm a little ashamed to say. And then they'll say, like a pop band or a boy band or a girl band, and so it is all good. So thank you for joining us. And I'm really excited about this idea about shifting, because shifting is recovery, right? It's like creating a different place to set up shop mentally, physically, spiritually. So shifting your mindset, like so much of the game a third of the game is just happening between our ears. So I'm super excited for you to share like what you teach and how you share this with so many women.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I will go ahead and share my screen if I can do.
Do it. Do you have the power?
Oh, I think I have the power now.
All right. There it is.
Cool. You can see it okay?
Yep.
Great. Okay.
Boom.
So yeah, I'm excited to talk about this because I think this is something cool that we get to do, us lucky people in recovery who are figuring out a different way of dealing with the world. So I want to talk about your thoughts, your beliefs, and your mindset. And I think this stuff really is at the heart of feeling good in recovery, especially during these super stressful pandemic times. Like what is going on in our minds is just at the heart of everything. And if we want to feel good in ourselves and create lives we love, we've got to look at what our brain is telling us. So I want to remind you that everything starts with a thought. Everything starts out as a thought first, just a sentence in our brain. When we create thoughts, and then our thoughts create beliefs, and our beliefs influence our actions and the results we get. And of course, when I say results, I mean our lives. So here's an example of that. Let's say you think of thoughts such as, I can't cope with stress. That is just a thought. It's just words in your brain. But if we keep practicing that thought by thinking it again and again, eventually it becomes a belief for us and we believe it to be true. And we start looking for evidence that supports that belief. We keep this like mental note of all those times we have got overwhelmed really easily and we haven't coped. And then we start taking action based on that belief about ourselves. So if you believe that you can't cope with stress, just think about all the repercussions from that. You're probably going to feel quite panicked when things don't go to plan. You might be always waiting for the other shoe to drop. You might avoid stepping out of your comfort zone. Something like this pandemic is going to feel quite scary because you're not sure what's going to happen. And of course, it's also going to put your recovery at risk. So that one single belief that I mentioned, I can't cope with stress, is really going to affect the things you do, the results you get, and the life that you live. So you have a lot of results in your life, and they all come from actions that you took based on beliefs that you have about yourself and other people and the way the world works. But all of those beliefs, they still started with a thought, a sentence in your brain that got repeated over and over again. And most people don't actually realize this. So they just keep thinking the same thoughts over and over, and they get really good at those thoughts. Because the brain absolutely loves to think the same thing again and again. It's a very efficient way to be. Even when you're thinking something that actually doesn't make you feel good, it's still kind of easier. The brain still likes doing that. So if you want different results in your life, if you want to feel better and experience some different outcomes, you need to look at your current collection of thoughts and see if it's stuff that you want to keep. Because the good news is you have the ability to create new thoughts and new beliefs. It just takes a little bit of conscious effort, but none of us here are afraid of a bit of work. So that's what I want to help you with today. I want to help you change some of these heavy and unhelpful beliefs that feel so true to you, but they're not serving you and they're not helping you live the life that you deserve to have in recovery. So here's how we do it. The first thing is to become aware of our thoughts, just to become conscious of them. And journaling is really, really good for this. You get to have a rant on the page and get everything out of your head and onto paper. And I personally find it's best to do this first thing in the morning, a couple of times a week, do it consistently, and then go back and read what you've written. See if there's an unhelpful belief that really jumps out at you. And you just want to pick one to start with. If you're like me, you'll have loads, but just pick one. So I've got some examples here. I thought it would be helpful to show you this stuff very, very specifically, because sometimes these things, they don't feel like thoughts to us. They feel like facts, but they're not. They are just unhelpful thoughts. So you want to look out for statements that don't make you feel good, particularly things where you are overgeneralizing. Things like, I never have enough time to get everything done, or nothing ever works out for me, or times when you're using words like should, such as, I should be coping better with this, or where you're labeling yourself, like, I'm a weak person, I'm not a very interesting person, all that stuff. When you look at this list, can you feel how heavy and unhelpful it is? When you're constantly repeating these kind of thoughts, almost practicing them as a mantra, it becomes the background music to your day. It skews your perception of everything. And that is such a shame, when really you can think whatever you want to think. There are no rules about it. You can choose to believe that the world is an awful place and you can't cope with your problems sober, or you can choose some more helpful and more empowering thoughts and start practicing them instead. So what you're going to do next is take just one of your unhelpful thoughts, just one for now, and put it into a table like this. And by the way, I'm going to give you a handout with all of this stuff on, so don't worry about trying to write it all down now. And for this exercise, I'm going to look at this thought. This was on my earlier slide, and this is actually one of mine that I'm trying to work on right now. And journaling is how I found this, because I kept writing this again and again. Like first thing in the morning, I was writing down, I never have enough time to get everything done. And how does that thought make me feel? Panicked. It makes me feel overwhelmed. It makes me feel like I have lost the day before it's even started. When I start ruminating over this, I know the day's not going to go too well. And when I feel this way, I finish the day super stressed out. I don't acknowledge my wins. I get less done, because I don't know if anyone else can relate to this, but sometimes when I'm feeling like this, I just procrastinate and actually don't do anything. So I make the whole situation worse. So what about picking a thought that actually feels better? Maybe something like this. These are alternatives that I could think to that I never have enough time to get everything done thought. I could think that, hey, some days are just busier than others. I'm good at prioritizing the stuff that matters, because actually I am. The most important things always get done. I always find time for the things that matter. I'm learning how to delegate. This experience is teaching me something important. I'm doing the best I can. This is called laddering your thoughts, where you are just trying to reach a few rungs up on the ladder for something that feels a bit better. So I'm not trying to convince myself of something totally unrealistic or too big of a jump. I'm just choosing thoughts that are true and they feel a bit better and they bring down the tension when I focus on them. So when I go back to my form here, I could write down in this box under the things that I could think. I could write down that I'm good at prioritizing the stuff that matters most. That thought would feel like a bit of a relief. Like it's okay if I don't get everything done, because I'm still taking care of the most important things. I can trust myself to do the right things. And when I feel that way, I feel calmer, I feel more logical, I actually get stuff done, and then I celebrate the stuff that I have achieved rather than focusing on what I haven't. And in this download that I've put together for you, I've included this table here, and I've also put a list of ideas for new thoughts and reframes, these new ways of thinking about your existing thoughts. And I just thought that would be helpful for you, because I know sometimes when you're doing this on your own and you're staring at a blank piece of paper, it's really helpful to have some prompts to get you started with. The next, and perhaps most important thing you want to do, is to remember your new thought, the one that feels so much better, and practice thinking it. This isn't just a one and done thing in a notebook. You want to put this new thought somewhere where you can see it, so you can keep bringing your attention back to it as you forget over the course of the day. Because like I said at the beginning, a belief is just a thought that you practiced over and over. So we need to practice our new thoughts too. You can write it on a sticky note, put it somewhere you see often, or you could set it as a reminder on your phone, or put it on your phone lock screen. That is a space you look at a lot. So you see that all the time, use it as a bookmark. Just don't forget about this new thought. All right, and finally, I want to share one more exercise that you can do to start reinforcing more helpful thoughts and beliefs, and that is to start collecting evidence. This works especially well when you are trying to reframe a really strong feeling thought that's very big and heavy and overwhelming. So if I just go back to my earlier slide of misery with all my unhelpful thoughts on, you'll see that some of them are really very stressful, disempowering thoughts. Things like, I'm such a failure. The world is an awful place. And with those thoughts, you can absolutely do the exercise I've just taught you through with the grid and everything. But it can also be helpful to start collecting evidence of the different thought you want to believe instead. So for example, with this one, people think I'm boring. This is a belief that I've struggled with at certain times in my life. I felt this as a teenager. I was very shy and introverted back then. I thought that was a bad thing. So drinking was a great answer to that. I thought at the time, I thought it helped me be confident and interesting. So when I quit drinking, this same fear came up again because I was leaving alcohol behind. And it seemed like there was evidence everywhere confirming this awful belief of mine. If I didn't get invited somewhere, if I felt like someone didn't like me, if there was an offhand comment about sober people being boring, you can bet I jumped on that and added it to my mental list of evidence that, gosh, people really think I'm boring. And then from there, I could just spin out and ruminate on that thought for hours and really get myself worked up and feeling bad. But here's what was really going on there. I don't know if you've ever had this experience of buying a new car and then suddenly you spot your new car everywhere. You see other people driving not just the same make and model, but the same color car. And what's happening isn't that your car has suddenly become really, really popular. It's just that you weren't looking for it before. Our brain is bombarded with facts and information all the time. We can only take in a certain amount of stuff. So for ease, we just filter out tons of stuff. And our brain, when left unchecked, will scan for the same stories and look for things that confirm our existing beliefs, even when they're awful beliefs. And it'll carry on doing that until something happens that consciously switches our focus for us, like buying a new car. When I was so focused on this belief I had that other people thought I was boring, I overlooked this. I missed all the other evidence in my life that I was an interesting person and people did value me and like me. I would just not see that stuff, or I'd dismiss it. It was like I got blinkers on. And it wasn't until I got a coach who I was working with who challenged me to start collecting evidence to dispel this belief. And when I started doing that, things really did start to change. So I started to write down one thing every day that supported the belief I wanted to have, which was, I am an interesting person. I am someone who matters. People value me. People want to spend time with me. And if you're looking at the slide thinking, well, I don't know if I'll be able to write down one thing every day. What if I can't find it? Then you definitely need to do this exercise, because the beauty of it is you will always find one thing every day. The devil is in the details. There will be something that shows you that your new belief is true. So I hope this was useful. You have nothing to lose by trying this other than getting rid of a few crappy thoughts and beliefs and learning to manage your mind like the awesome person you are. As I mentioned earlier, I have this little PDF download that's a kind of summary of what I've said today, and you can get it at thesoberschool.com/SES, as in Stress Elimination Summit. And yeah, that's everything I've got to say.
Kate, that was like a TED Talk. I mean, when I said these are going to be 15-minute TED style talks, when I first reached out to you, like that was straight up right off a TED stage. That was so good. That was phenomenal.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm so pleased.
Yeah, really clear. And I there's a book, I don't want to swear, but it has a swear in the title, and it's called Unfuck Your Brain, and by Faith Harper. And it's like this psychologist who loves to use expletives to kind of, make heady psychology more street, for lack of a better phrase. And one of the things she says is, the brain is like a puppy. You can train it. And if you don't train it, it pees and poos and eats your shoes, and it makes a mess of the place. But you can train your brain, and it's important for us to remember that. Even those of us who have been kind of programmed in 12-step that we're powerless, it's like there's some things I need to confront. I'm going to push back on that. Say, actually, no, the human brain is something that is malleable and trainable, and you gave us a very clear, concise practice for how to train it. And that's hugely valuable. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. I hope that helps, because you can absolutely change the way you're thinking and manage your mind.
Yep. Awesome. So everybody, you saw the link, www.thesoberschool.com/SES. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Kate B. Kate, thank you so much for joining us at the summit. That was phenomenal.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much for checking out this episode of Reduce Your Stress with Tim Ringgold. I've got a couple of resources for you, which you can find in the show notes, or you can listen to right here. So check it out. If you enjoy the sound of my voice and you enjoy the sound of my guitar, imagine them put together. Go to sonicrecovery.com and take your very own relaxation vacation, where I take you out of the stress of the present moment and back in time to a time when you felt happy, healthy, safe, and sober, and then walk you through that memory so you can bring back those feelings into the challenges you're facing today. So go check that out. It's at sonicrecovery.com. If you're a healthcare worker in recovery, check out the Music in Recovery Self-Care Guide for healthcare professionals that I created just for you. That's at hcp.sonicrecovery.com. And if you're a healthcare worker and you'd like more information about how to help your patients use music, you can check out the Music Medicine Guide that I created just for you at musicmedicineguide.com. Lastly, if you enjoyed the pod and you haven't done it yet, would you just take a minute to rate and review it? It really only takes about 60 seconds, believe it or not, and it would go a long way to help us make more people know just how good this pod is, particularly for healthcare workers and their stress. Thanks again. See you next time.